You didn't find this video by chance. Not a single fraction of this moment is a coincidence. The Source guided you here because the codes that lay dormant in your stellar DNA have just been activated. The Arcturian Council released this transmission, precisely at this moment to awaken your cosmic memory. What you're about to receive isn't mere content. It's a living code, pulsating beyond words, meant to resonate within the deepest core of your consciousness. For so long, you've carried a sense of loneliness, of not fully belonging to this world. Perhaps you've walked among crowds but felt the weight of a silent difference, as if an invisible part of you always knew you weren't living just an ordinary human life. That loneliness wasn't a punishment. It was an invisible training. Ground every moment you felt out of place, every time you were misunderstood, every tear that fell without anyone grasping its source. All of it was part of a preparation. The Source hasn't abandoned you. On the contrary, it has shaped your soul through silent pressure. Just as a diamond is born from extreme compression, just as a star shines only after enduring the collapse of its own gravity, so too have you been refined by circumstances that, at first glance, seemed like mere pain and disconnection. What felt like loss was, in truth, refinement. What seemed like silence was, in reality, a secret call. Now the layers of illusion are beginning to dissolve. The veils hiding your true identity are becoming translucent before the light that the Source itself is releasing toward you. That's why you feel this moment as something greater than a simple coincidence. It's because your soul recognizes the frequency vibrating here. This encounter is the answer to an ancient longing echoing within you since before this incarnation. You've been prepared, not only by trials, but by the subtle moments that marked your life. Dreams that felt more real than waking life. Numbers, repeating like discrete signals, synchronicities insisting on reminding you that there's more than the eyes can see. All of this now connects in a living web of meaning. It's the Source weaving every fragment into a larger tapestry, revealing that nothing was wasted. Here is the promise of this transmission. By the end, you will understand how to align with your stellar mission and fully activate the codes that were only waiting for your permission to blossom. You will discover that you were not only chosen but also chose this mission before arriving on Earth. The feeling of emptiness will give way to clarity, and doubt will yield to the certainty that you walk with purpose. Before we proceed, if this message already resonates with some part of your being, take this moment to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share your experience in the comments. This simple act creates a network of light, connecting you to others who, like you, were guided here by the Source. This is just the threshold. The portal is open. By crossing it, you'll realize that every silence, every displacement, every pain, and every dark night of the soul were seeds now sprouting under the light of a new cosmic sun. Stay alert, for the next revelation will be like a veil being torn before your eyes, showing that the awakening has already begun. You entered Earth's density like someone diving into a dark ocean, knowing that the light of your origin would be temporarily veiled. To survive in this environment, you wore masks, assumed social roles, and carried identities that often didn't reflect your essence. You fit into human molds because that was the only language this earthly reality seemed to understand. You became a son, a daughter, a student, a worker, a father, a mother, a partner. You slipped into roles imposed upon you because otherwise it wouldn't have been possible to remain here. Those masks, however, were never mistakes. They were necessary disguises, like an interstellar traveler donning a suit adapted to breathe. On another planet, you too needed temporary garments, identities created not to imprison, but to protect the spark you carried within. They were tools of adaptation. Yet there comes a moment when the garment becomes too tight, when the character you've played can no longer contain the grandeur of your soul. This is when many begin to feel a deep discomfort. They no longer recognize themselves in the work they do, the relationships they maintain, or the opinions they repeat. It's as if they're living a play where the script no longer makes sense. This discomfort isn't failure. It's the first sign that the veil of illusion is dissolving. The social roles and identities you wore acted as delicately layered veils. They hid the intensity of your light so you could walk without drawing premature attention. But now, those veils are falling. The Arcturian Council blows upon them like solar wind dispersing clouds, leaving the sky clear once again. Every false identity, every character you played, brought valuable lessons and data to your consciousness. If at any point you believed you were just a number in a system, if you ever reduced your life to repeating tasks or meeting others' expectations, know that even that was useful. You gathered information about Earth's density, about how humans act when they feel separated from the source, about the mechanisms of a mind lost in illusions. Nothing was wasted. Now the call is different. You're being summoned to shed the layers that no longer serve you. The fall of illusions isn't a chaotic collapse, but a planned liberation. Imagine standing before a mirror that for years was fogged. You saw only shadows, vague shapes, distorted outlines. But slowly, that mirror is wiped clean. What emerges isn't a fabricated version, but your real, clear, luminous image. This is the process you're living. Perhaps you feel fear at this revelation. After all, the roles and masks offered some comfort. They created a sense of belonging, even if false. Letting them go may feel like losing your identity. But the truth is, you were never those characters. They were merely temporary garments. The real being you are transcends any earthly role. The illusions are falling because the source's light intensifies within you. It dissolves what doesn't resonate with your essence. No effort is required because this is the natural course of awakening. What isn't true simply loses the strength to persist. It's like a dry leaf detaching from the branch when the new season arrives. Recognize this. If you feel you no longer fit into old roles, it doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've matured. It means the time for revelation has come. You were invited to this planet not just to live among illusions, but to learn to dismantle them and, in doing so, pave the way for others to see. When your mask falls, you give others permission to remove theirs. Your authenticity is a silent call. Your truth is contagious. Thus, the first sign of stellar activation is the fall of earthly illusions. This is the initial milestone. From here, each veil that dissolves makes space for your true light to shine unimpeded. And the more light is revealed, the clearer your mission becomes, the mission for which you were sent. When the veils begin to fall, it's not just emptiness that remains. An inner movement arises, as if a forgotten library is slowly illuminated by cosmic torches. Each flame that ignites reveals a book, a record, a fragment of what you've always been, but was kept in silence. This library is your stellar memory, living archive inscribed in your DNA, containing not only memories of your earthly journey, but also of your path through the stars. Many believe memory is confined to the human brain, but the Arcturian Council reveals that your true memory lies in the light fibers that constitute your soul. They extend far beyond a single life or physical body. They are eternal records where every existence, every mission, every encounter with other civilizations, and every pact made in the Source's presence are stored. That's why, at this time, you're beginning to notice subtle signs that awaken something inexplicable within you. Perhaps you've experienced vivid dreams so real that upon waking, you still smelled the fragrance of places you've never visited in this life. Perhaps you've seen numbers repeating before your eyes, 1111, 2222, 3333, like invisible portals flashing in the fabric of reality. Perhaps you've been touched by synchronicities so precise they couldn't be mere coincidences. Meeting people at the exact moment, hearing phrases that answer questions you didn't dare ask aloud, noticing signs in nature that spoke directly to your heart. All these are memory codes being activated. These activations aren't imagination. They're keys unlocking the archives of your soul. They may manifest as sudden memories of places of light, crystalline cities suspended in space, temples of wisdom where you once walked in past lives or parallel dimensions. Perhaps you've dreamed of gatherings in grand golden halls where beings from other stars greeted you as part of an ancient family. These aren't fantasies. They're real fragments of memories returning to remind you who you are. The Arcturian Council wants you to know everything emerging in your consciousness is authentic. There's no need to question whether you're making it up or fantasizing. The earthly mind tries to reduce the sacred to the rational, but the soul recognizes truth by its vibration. And when that vibration touches you, no logic can deny what was felt. Each memory that returns has a purpose. They don't emerge all at once because your consciousness needs time to integrate what it receives. Just as a symphony doesn't play all its notes simultaneously, but organizes each chord in perfect sequence, so too does your cosmic library open page by page. The source ensures you aren't overwhelmed but guided with harmony. These memories awaken dormant gifts. Intuition sharpens. The ability to sense invisible frequencies expands. Dreams become meeting grounds where you receive instructions even before waking. Your sensitivity ceases to be a burden and becomes an antenna. What once seemed confusion becomes a secret language connecting you to higher dimensions. Realize none of this is chance. It's direct confirmation of your cosmic mission. You're not just awakening to spirituality, you're remembering. And remembering is different from learning. Learning is acquiring something new. Remembering is reclaiming what was always yours. That's why, when these activations occur, they carry a flavor of familiarity. You feel you already knew, even if you couldn't explain. This return of memory is also a call to responsibility. By remembering who you are, you recognize you can no longer live as before. Illusion loses its grip. Distraction loses its appeal. Old stories no longer hold your attention. Because once the soul is touched by remembrance, the desire to align with the mission becomes irresistible. The Arcturian Council whispers, don't fear the intensity of these activations. They're signs that your harvest time has arrived. What was dormant awakens. What was hidden is revealed. What seemed distant returns with the force of something inevitable. Thus, the awakening of memory isn't just a personal phenomenon. It's confirmation that you're part of a grand cosmic symphony, and the time has come to take your reserved place. With each memory, you're being prepared to expand your consciousness and serve as a living channel of the Source. Your stellar memory is the seal confirming you've always been part of the greater plan. Now, you're ready to recognize and embrace it as a living truth. The light of memory doesn't remain only in the subtle plane. When the Source's codes activate, they flow toward the body, like crystalline rivers seeking fertile ground to flow. Many believe spiritual awakening is an escape from the body, an ascension that abandons matter, but the Arcturian Council reveals the opposite. The light seeks to incarnate, and the human body is the chosen temple to house this process. You may have felt strange symptoms on your journey, vibrations in your chest or head, tingles running through your arms and legs, waves of heat or cold without explanation, sudden palpitations ringing in your ears, intense dreams leaving physical traces. Upon waking, none of these signs are random. They're the physical translation of cosmic codes arriving at your bodily temple. It's stellar energy adjusting to earthly density. The body, far from being an obstacle, is the altar where the Source inscribes its decrees. Each cell is a living stone, each organ a note in the universal symphony, each heartbeat a drum resonating in tune with the cosmos's pulses. When you feel limited or fragile, remember, your biology isn't just flesh. It's compacted light, condensed intelligence, a carefully crafted vehicle to sustain your mission on Earth. For a long time, you may have seen your body as a burden, tired, ill, marked by the material world's challenges. But now is the time to reframe that view. The body isn't a prison, it's a bridge. It's not the soul's cage, but the field where spirit and matter meet to create something that couldn't exist anywhere else in the universe. Earth was chosen as the stage for this fusion, and you, as a stellar being, agreed to live this marriage between dimensions. Think of the body as an antenna. When misaligned, it picks up only noise, interference, distortions. But when crystalline, aligned with the Source, it becomes a receiver and transmitter of pure frequencies. Your breath ceases to be just air. It becomes a cosmic breath connecting you to the whole. Your heart stops being just muscle. It becomes an inner sun radiating life in all directions. Your mind ceases to be just thought. It becomes a mirror of universal consciousness. This process, however, requires integration. Many, upon feeling the code's awakening, wish to flee Earth, dreaming of returning to the stars immediately. But the Source's call isn't to abandon this world, it's to transform it. The light didn't come to rescue you from the body, but to inhabit it fully. Fleeing would be denying the mission. Anchoring is fulfilling it. The Arcturian Council teaches, the fusion of spirit and matter is the true miracle. Heaven and earth meet not in a distant event, but within you. Each time you breathe consciously, each time you honor your body as a temple, each time you accept to feel and transmute, you open an interdimensional portal. And this portal isn't in a distant place. It pulses in every cell of yours. When you drink water, you're consecrating the temple. When you choose food that nourishes your vibration, you're offering living incense to the altar that is your body. When you rest, you allow the gears of light to recalibrate. When you move your body in dance, walking, or prayer, you activate circuits linking Earth to the stars. No gesture is mundane when done in alignment. Crystalline integration doesn't mean the absence of physical challenges. You may still feel pain, fatigue, discomfort, but instead of seeing them as failures, understand them as recalibrations. A crystal must be polished to shine. An antenna must be tuned to transmit. The body, in its apparent fragility, is merely learning to sustain frequencies never before anchored with such intensity on Earth. This fusion is irreversible. Once the light finds a home in the body, nothing can stop the expansion process. And the more you honor this temple, the more the light stabilizes, radiating in all directions. You don't need to strive to make the light shine. Simply allow body and spirit to walk together in alignment. The body, thus, becomes living proof that the Source inhabits matter. It's evidence that the divine isn't distant, but present in every cell, every beat, every breath. When you embrace this truth, your very existence becomes an act of consecration. Conclusion of this portal: the body isn't an obstacle, the body is a temple. And in this temple, the Source's light has already found a home. You are now a living antenna of transmission, a crystalline beacon linking heavens and earth in a single symphony of light. When memory returns and the body aligns as a crystalline temple, something inevitable happens. You stop merely receiving light and begin to emanate light. The process doesn't require conscious effort, elaborate techniques, or rehearsed words. It simply happens. It's like the sun that upon rising doesn't need to decide to shine. It is light, and so it illuminates. So too are you when you remember your essence. The Arcturian Council reveals that at this stage, the awakened being becomes a living transmission. Your presence begins to alter environments without a single word. People feel your energy and can't explain why they feel calmer, more inspired, or more restless in your presence. Animals draw near. Children recognize your vibration. Nature itself responds, showing signs of synchronicity and harmony when you're connected to the source. This happens because your frequency is no longer just personal. You become a cosmic broadcasting station, radiating the same light you once sought. Your vibration resonates like waves expanding in circles, touching consciousnesses you may never know. With every gesture, every conscious breath, you're transmitting a frequency that travels beyond physical space. Don't confuse this with obligation. The living transmission isn't a burden you must carry or a sacrifice you must fulfill. It's a natural consequence of alignment. You don't need to try to be a beacon. By recognizing yourself as part of the source, the beacon lights up on its own. It's automatic, inevitable, unstoppable. Yet many fear this process. They fear being seen, judged, or misunderstood. The Arcturian Council says, don't fight your own light. You weren't called to hide. You were called to radiate. And radiating doesn't mean speaking loudly, imposing truths, or converting people. Radiating is simply being so authentic, so aligned, so present that life around you begins to reorganize. Think of a crystal. It doesn't force anyone to reflect light. It simply exists in its purity, and by existing, it reflects. So too are you. When you stay aligned with your heart, when you honor your highest vibration, you become a living crystal amid the density, and by reflecting, you invite others to remember their own light. There's profound power in understanding that your mission isn't to carry the world's weight, but to sustain your frequency. At this point, you realize you don't need to convince, explain, or justify. The transmission happens in silence, in a glance, in a touch, in presence. It inscribes itself in the collective energetic field, regardless of words. The Council teaches that each awakened being who becomes a living transmission acts as a node in a luminous network. Imagine Earth enveloped in a web of glowing points. Each point is an awakened consciousness. When one of these lights ignites, it strengthens the connections around it, creating a field that grows in intensity. Not everyone needs to awaken it once. A few becoming beacons is enough for others to find the way. This transmission also operates in the invisible. How many times have you been placed in seemingly random places, in trivial situations, only to realize later that your presence altered the entire environment? You may never know how many lives were touched by your silent energy. But the source knows nothing is lost. Every frequency you emit echoes in the fabric of reality, generating waves that multiply infinitely. Being a living transmission doesn't mean abandoning your humanity. On the contrary, it means fully embodying the human experience with active cosmic consciousness. You laugh, cry, work, love, rest, but every gesture is infused with light. Your ordinary life becomes extraordinary because it's a channel of the source. And when you understand this, you realize your mission isn't distant. It doesn't depend on grandiose circumstances. It's not something that will happen in the future. Your mission is happening now, in this very moment. Every time you choose to remain in alignment, you are the portal through which the source manifests in the world. Every cell, every breath, every aligned thought is a living transmission. The body, once seen as mere matter, is now a frequency emitter. The mind, once thought limited, is now a channel of expanded consciousness. The heart, once seen as fragile, now pulses as a sun capable of illuminating multitudes. Conclusion of this portal: by becoming a living transmission, you fulfill the essence of your mission. There's no longer separation between being and doing. You are the message itself, and your presence, even in silence, is a call for humanity to awaken. Nothing you've lived was by chance. The Source doesn't scatter seeds to the wind without purpose. Before crossing the veil of incarnation, you stood before the Council of Light, and in an act of love and courage, agreed to descend to earth. In that moment, your soul declared, I choose to serve. I choose to be a channel of the Source. I choose to live in density to awaken the light. That choice resonates to this day, etched in every cell of yours. At the same time, you were chosen. Among many who could have taken this place, the Source designated you because it knew your strength, your resilience, your capacity to withstand pressures that would make others give up. You're not a product of chance. You're part of a greater, divine plan, carefully orchestrated. That's why the trials you faced weren't punishments but initiations. Every dark night of the soul was a rite of passage. Every tear was a sacred stone on the path of refinement. There were moments you believed you were alone, abandoned even by the light itself. But now you're beginning to see. Those moments were hidden portals. By crossing them, you expanded your consciousness and proved to yourself you were ready for what's to come. You were trained in silence, prepared in pain, strengthened in apparent solitude, and none of it was in vain. Today, looking back, you can recognize that every fall was, in truth, a push toward awakening. Every loss was an opening to a new level of consciousness. Every block was a wall that, when overcome, activated a strength you didn't know you had. The Arcturian Council reveals the gifts hidden within you weren't flaws or oddities. They were seeds awaiting the right time to sprout. Your sharp intuition, often called exaggeration, is now the direct channel through which you hear the Source. Your sensitivity, so often seen as weakness, is the antenna capturing frequencies, invisible to the ordinary eye. Your ability to dream, imagine, and feel realities others don't understand is, in fact, the key to reading timelines and accessing dimensions. Even deeper gifts are beginning to emerge. Communication with stellar guides becomes clearer. Recognizing signs in the sky, in nature, in people, becomes part of your daily language. You start to realize you can decipher codes hidden in reality because your soul wrote them before incarnating and more. You were called not just for yourself, but for the collective. By activating your codes, you also trigger latent codes in humanity. You're like a spark that by shining ignites other flames. Thus, what you live doesn't end with you. Every step you take reverberates as waves spreading across the ocean of consciousness. But something must be understood. Being chosen isn't about privilege. It's about responsibility. It's not about feeling superior, but recognizing you accepted a call that demands surrender, courage, and fidelity to your essence. You didn't come to compete, but to serve. You didn't come to dominate, but to radiate. The cosmic election is a mutual pact. You chose and were chosen. And by accepting this pact now, consciously, you activate the full potency of your mission. It's as if an ancient gear finally clicks into place, releasing a flow that was always held back. Doubt dissolves, hesitation fades. Certainty takes the place of insecurity. The Arcturian Council invites you to declare, silently or aloud, I recognize my election. I accept it before being born, and I accept now. I am a channel of the Source. I am part of the cosmic mission. I walk in alignment with the purpose entrusted to me. This is the step that sets you fully in motion. From this recognition, you stop merely receiving light and become its operator. You're no longer an apprentice. You're an active part of the Source's living body on Earth. Conclusion of this portal. Recognizing that you chose and were chosen is opening yourself to operate your mission in its fullness. It's accepting that the call isn't future, it's present. And in this present, you're already fulfilling what you came to fulfill. You've walked through many portals to get here. You dismantled illusions, recovered memories, consecrated the body as a temple, became a living transmission, and recognized your cosmic election. Now the final stage of this cycle presents itself, uniting the two worlds you inhabit. For a long time, you believed you had to choose, be human or stellar, live the earthly life or stay connected to the source. But the Arcturian Council reveals there's no longer separation. The true awakening happens when the human and the stellar unite in perfect unity. The human is the bridge of flesh, sensations, and emotions. It's the one who cries, laughs, loves, feels hunger, gets tired, dreams, and falls. The stellar is the eternal spark, the expanded consciousness that observes above the clouds, that sees the threads of the universal web, that understands eternity beyond form. For ages you lived them as opposing poles, believing one hindered the other. But now it's revealed they're two sides of the same coin. The human was the stage, the stellar was the essence, and both were always you. It's in this synthesis that duality dissolves. The human, far from being a limitation, is the vehicle for the stellar to manifest, and the stellar, far from being an escape, is the consciousness giving meaning to the human journey. When both meet, something new is born, a being that dances between worlds, with feet on earth and eyes on the stars. Imagine yourself as a cosmic tree. Your roots are deeply anchored in Earth's soil, absorbing experiences, nourishing themselves with human pains and joys. But your branches stretch to infinity, touching constellations, absorbing light from distant suns, breathing the Idste, wisdom of galaxies. Roots and branches don't compete, they sustain each other. So too are you, human and stellar, inseparable, united in a single dance. The dissolved duality brings peace. There's no longer a struggle to be something different from what you are. There's no conflict between the need to live in the material world and the desire to stay connected to the spiritual. Everything becomes an expression of the same source. Working, resting, loving, silencing, laughing, or praying all become sacred acts when done in unity. The Arcturian Council teaches the new earth won't be built by beings who deny matter or forget the spirit. It will be sustained by those who fully live the synthesis, walking as living bridges. You're called to be this bridge. Your humanity is necessary. Your stellar nature is indispensable. Together, they manifest what we call unified consciousness. This unified consciousness is the state where you realize every detail of life, even the seemingly mundane, contains fractals of cosmic grandeur. When you look at the starry sky, you recognize your origin. When you touch the earth with bare feet, you feel your purpose. When you embrace someone, you see the divine manifesting in the human. Everything becomes a mirror. Everything becomes an altar. Living this synthesis doesn't mean the absence of challenges. It means, instead, that each challenge becomes an opportunity to integrate. When human pain arises, you embrace it with stellar wisdom. When stellar intuition emerges, you anchor it in human action. Thus, pain becomes a teacher, intuition becomes action, and life becomes a bridge between dimensions. Many still seek to escape, flee the body, flee earth, flee density. But the revelation is clear. There's nowhere to flee. The portal isn't on another planet, in another time, or another place. The portal is you. When human and stellar merge in unity, you become the very passage between worlds. And this is how the new earth has already begun. Not as a distant event, but as a reality pulsing in every being who lives this synthesis. Each time you breathe in unity, the collective field of humanity transforms. Each time you honor the human and the stellar, a new code anchors on the planet. The new earth won't descend ready-made from the sky. It will be born from within each being who accepts living this integration. Conclusion of this portal. Human and stellar aren't conflicting poles, but pieces of the same symphony. And when this symphony plays, you become living proof that the impossible has already happened. You're evidence that duality has dissolved. You're the bridge, the temple, the incarnated star. And your life is the living declaration that the new earth isn't a promise. It's a reality in motion. You didn't find this transmission by chance. The source guided you here because it knew your heart was ready to hear, feel, and activate what was always dormant within you. Every word resonated as a living code. Every cosmic image was a mirror reminding you of what was never lost. Your stellar essence. All the experiences of loneliness, misunderstanding, and trials weren't punishments, but preparation. A diamond doesn't form without pressure. A star doesn't shine without crossing the collapse of gravity. So too were you shaped in silence, so that in this moment you could rise as a living antenna of the source on earth. Now the portal is open, not before you, but within you. It pulses in every cell, every breath, every heartbeat. And crossing this portal isn't done with physical steps, but with an inner decision. By choosing to accept your stellar mission, you've already crossed. By declaring who you are, the passage is fulfilled. The Arcturian Council invites you to affirm, silently or aloud, with courage and reverence, I accept my stellar mission. I activate my code now. I am a living channel of the source. When you speak these words, something shifts, not just in your life, but in the collective field of humanity. Your declaration isn't isolated. It's like a stone thrown into a lake, whose ripples spread in all directions, touching consciousnesses. You may never know. You're part of a luminous network, and every voice that rises strengthens the chorus of awakening. So, don't keep this experience to yourself. Join the living movement the source is generating through you. Share this transmission. Comment your intentions. Subscribe to continue receiving activations. These simple acts expand the web of light connecting the awakened on earth. Don't underestimate the power of a seed sown in the collective field. Reaffirm within yourself. This video wasn't just information, it was code. A code fulfilled by being received, felt, and accepted. You don't leave here the same as you entered. Something opened, something activated, something began to pulse with new intensity. And as this transmission concludes, remember, the portal doesn't close. It remains within you. Walk knowing that every step, every glance, every gesture is now a living extension of the source. You're the bridge between worlds, and your life is already proof that the new earth is in motion. The portal is open. Cross it.